Hey everybody, we got a conversation to look at today that gets at one of my favorite questions, which is why then God just show everybody that he's God? Why are we navigating this labyrinth of I think there's God is there, but you have to have faith. Why don't you prove it? This comes out of a conversation in a forum, and I think I agree with some of these points that this guy's gonna make, and I disagree with some. I'll give you my take on the whole thing. Okay, here we go.
Do you think that faith is a good thing? That having faith is a positive
Well,
attribute?
first of all, let's define what faith is. Faith is trust.
Okay.
The opposite of faith is not reason, and the opposite of reason is not faith. The opposite of reason is irrationality. The opposite of faith is to distrust. So everybody trusts in something. The only question is, do you have evidence to trust in it?
So what he's calling faith is a word that has very nebulous definition, and a lot of people would say that faith and rationality are at odds because faith is believing something even when it hasn't checked out for you rationally. Here he's saying, no, it's faith and distrust. So faith is the same thing as trust in God, and then there's rationality and irrationality below that. Okay.
And there are some things you can't get evidence for, like reason itself. Why? Because any defense of reason by reason would be circular. We all have faith that reason works.
Yeah, you have faith that reason works because it seems like you see it working. If that makes sense. But as for where your sense of that making sense comes from, or how to examine that, okay.
Why do you think God instituted faith? Like, why not just appear to everybody on their 12th birthday and be like, hey, by the way, I'm real, and then do a backflip and skate away?
Doing a backflip is very hard and dangerous. Even if you're God, I don't think you could pull that off.
Because I don't think our biggest problem is God showing up to everyone. In fact, if you look at some of the more vociferous atheists, people like Peter Atkins was asked recently, what would convince him that God existed? And he said, in fact, one guy said, if Jesus were to appear to you, what would you do? He'd say, I'd go see my psychiatrist. There's nothing that would convince me that God exists. God gives us enough evidence to know that he exists.
Wow, this is too much at once. There's too many things I want to comment on at once. Who put me up to this? Oh, my own self. Okay. This guy with the headphones is saying, hey, why are we playing this game? A lot of this could be sorted out. We wouldn't have to have people like me talking on YouTube about God and does God do this or do that if it was just obviously there in front of us. Now, the main presenter guy is saying some people, even if God did that, wouldn't even believe in the first place. That they have this interview, this guy saying, if I saw Jesus, obviously I'd be mentally ill, so I'd have to get help for that. And you could say, all right, that might be true in a few cases, but wouldn't a lot of people not be like that? Wouldn't most people say, wow, God said that he exists, so that changes my calculus. Now I trust that more. To explain why God doesn't overtly appear to everyone and lay it out then and there that he exists and the only rational way to be is to acknowledge that and live your life on it, there would have to be some reason why that would be worse than what we have now. Not just that it wouldn't work on a few people who already aren't into it anyway, because wouldn't there be so much of the population it would work on? So let me see if he gives a definition for why we're better off with a hidden God. And if he doesn't, then I don't have something to say.
God gives us enough evidence to know that he exists, but he doesn't give us so much that we don't have the free will to turn away and go our own direction. He gives us that freedom. If he were like a stalker around us at all times, hey, here I am again, hey, here I am again, would that in any way, do you think, encourage a love relationship, or would you just be annoyed with him if you didn't want to follow him? You'd be annoyed. God isn't interested in us intellectually believing he exists. God is interested in us having a love relationship with him where we trust in him. And for that, he's got to keep some distance. If he's stalking us all the time, that would be annoying. So he gives us enough to know, but also enough freedom to go our own way. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that was explained very well.
All right, thank you, Caleb.
Actually, that was explained pretty well. I would like to expand on that though, because I think there's a couple parts of it that aren't quite satisfying. There's something called freedom. People throw that word around a lot, especially when explaining why the world isn't perfect. Why is there suffering? Well, because humans have free will, so we can harm each other. Why doesn't God show himself directly to you? It's because, man, free will, that would violate our freedom to choose to trust in God or not. And I like that he said, because that would interfere with love, and that is what unites people to God. He said it would be too annoying if God was around all the time. That wouldn't really be love. I don't think that's actually the bad guy in the situation, is that would be too annoying. Because you'd think with the suffering in the world and the goodness that can come from connecting with God, that it's like, now we're going to take that risk of it being annoying. I need to be here. Parents all the time are annoying to their kids. Actually, 100% of the time, they're annoying to their kids because they got to be in there and do what they have to do. This is how I would rephrase the answer to that. Love can only exist in a state of freedom. There are different parts of your mind that are engaged by inarguable things and arguable things. If God did appear to everyone and showed himself to them and said, this is me and this is how you have to be because I'm telling you that you have to be that way, that would, for some people, create an assent to that, but it would not be something that was chosen in freedom, and it would not have any depth or life to it. And eventually, actually, people would reject it. The only thing that you form a bond with spiritually is something that you believe is true because of your own rationality. I've looked at this and it seems like it's right, and that you love because you actually believe it's good. Not that you love because you believe it's unavoidable or it's powerful and so you have to love it, but you love it because you believe it's good. God does show himself to everyone, but not in effigy, but through the experience that we have of love. That sounds cheesy, but you've heard it. God is love, and everybody in life experiences love or goodness and its opposite, which you could call evil or hatred, negativity, all that cluster of things that go against what it is to be good. Everybody encounters that. That is when we make our choice to be, because that's what God is about the love to other people. That's when we make our choice. Do I like that? And do I want to act on that? And do I want to be that? Or do I want to do the opposite? You know what it is to be a human being and be around other human beings. Do I care about them? Do I want to do what's good to them? Or do I not? That's the important thing. Even the acknowledgement of the exact nature of God, it trails that, because you can have a lot of people who are very firmly convinced that God exists or believe that they do, and yet are completely against love of other human beings. Just look through history. Religious people can commit some of the worst crimes that you can possibly commit. If you don't have the love thing, which is why Jesus Christ says, love one another as I have loved you. If you don't have that, then all of your intellectual attachments to God don't do anything. It has to be that you get both. And you can only really get both if you're left in a state in which you have enough freedom to really for yourself believe, do I love goodness? And then, yes, God is trying to pull back that curtain and say, look, I'm that goodness. I'm where that goodness comes from. And what's really potent is when you have the love of what's good married to the true grasp of theology that goes along with that. But if you just have the theology and you just have the belief in God without the love that got built up through a life of interacting with humans in a state of freedom and seeing which one you like, then it doesn't really do anything for you. So if God appeared to everyone and said, here I am, this is how it is, we still wouldn't sort out what we love. We still wouldn't sort out the real struggle, which is between what is good and what is not good, between love and the opposite of love. And that's what really matters. The heart is what matters. The mind will ultimately always turn toward what the heart wants it to do. That's why you get people who are saying, even if Jesus appeared, I wouldn't believe it, because ultimately the heart is set against it. All belief trails love. So you got to get the love straight. God has organized the world in such a way so that it provides the opportunity for people to get the love thing right, and then hopefully connect the love to faith. But of the two, the love is more important, because that's what makes us who we are. So there, I would add that on top. I like the discussion, but I think there's a little more to it.